So I mentioned several times meet the customers where they're at, and the thing that I like the most about leveraging the technology is that they can work on their schedule, not ours. It's seamless. We can give them the blocks. They can pick when, however long they want to block us off for, and they can choose and they submit all the information over to us, and now we're ready.
So I am here today with Van Richardson, who is the co-founder and CEO of Filo Mortgage and also Everstream Mortgage. And he has agreed to be part of our customer profile today. Thank you so much, Van, for joining us. First of all, you're the CEO of two companies, and I'm fascinated by that. Tell us a little bit about what you do and why you do it.
So we work, both companies work in conjunction with each other. They're sister companies, so to speak. And we work in tandem not only with direct to consumer on a largely internet basis, but we also work with brokers all across the country. So while our reach with Filo Mortgage might be limited to what our company, as far as the direct to consumer arm, can handle, we also deal with the Everstream side, which is more dealing with brick and mortars, maybe in local areas. So we found that as COVID and the pandemic happened, we wanted to try and stretch out our arms as wide as possible and touch as many consumers as we could. And you've got one or two ways to do that. Either you can grow it yourself, or you can try and identify opportunities within channels that have already been created and how we can welcome that into our business. So that's really what birthed Everstream Mortgage and how we kind of brought that in full circle to Philo.
The mortgage industry is notoriously difficult and people hate having to do it and stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about why it's different. I've read your website and I can see some of the angles that you're going there, but I'd love to hear your point about why your business is different and what you've done about it to make it that way.
I look at things as nobody wants to file taxes more than they have to, right? So I think largely the challenge that people have had with mortgages it's a necessary evil, right? Where I need the house, so I'm going to get the mortgage and this, that, and the other. And what we found again during COVID and when rates fell as much as they did, we found that we were doing loans over and over and over and over again for customers. And so our goal really was to simplify that as much as possible and ensure that when those individuals came back to us, that it wasn't that painstaking process, that they found that it was simple and easy and able to work through with the technology that we have created and some of what you guys have already put together on your platform that made it easy for consumers to reach out to us on their terms, not on ours. And then what does that process look like when we are dealing with them? How do we handle that process to simplify it so it's not filing your taxes over and over and over again? And we found that obviously artificial intelligence has come into the mix and will continue to improve what we already see experiences for consumers. But then how do we actually function as a company? And what does our assembly line look like? And how can we simplify that? And what we found is, and I've been in this business longer than I like to admit, but I found over the years what used to be the norm in a 30 to 45 to maybe even 60-day process, we're able to truncate that in less than 2 weeks.
Have you always been a very technical savvy person, like a very tech forward, or have you had to learn this? Has this been a curve?
Both, I would say. I think that the banking and finance industry has never really been an adoption, mainly for compliance reasons, of technology, because it's, you really need to have your hands around the data that you're endeavoring. So I've always tried to look at it a little bit differently, not to say I'm a pioneer in any stretch, but I like to look at things quite a bit differently than maybe they've always been done. And our business can frankly be pretty archaic at times. And I'd rather challenge that trend. And I think that we're young enough and nimble enough of a company where we can do things differently than some of the larger companies and older, more established companies that I've worked for in the past. And that was really, I think, where Filo Mortgage began, is that vision of, okay, well, this is the way it's always been done. This is the way I think it should be done. Let's do it. I can't turn the Titanic on a company that's been around for 30 years. So.
What's your driving passion? Like, why do you get up in the morning and what keeps you going?
Yeah, it's a great question. I meet with our team once a week. We talk about the human element and the human component. And so I just mentioned that we rely on human beings to operate our company, but we also rely on human beings to utilize our company. It's funny, I've got a medallion here from a veteran that I used to be a loan officer back in the day, and they had a great experience, and it was something that meant a lot to them. And he sent me a medallion, and I keep it with me. It's been 15 years now. And that meant a lot to me that they took the time to share that. And so I've never lost sight of the human component of it, that there is somebody at the other end of that phone. And again, I've been in this business for a while. I've worked for several companies, and it doesn't always have that feel of home. And sometimes when you're dealing in just the minutia and the data, everybody becomes a widget. And so what keeps me going is never forgetting that we rely on human beings to get us to where we need to be. And we're a business that needs to not only take care of our customers, but we also need to take care of our employees and make sure that we leverage technologies and we give them a company that they're proud to work for. And I find that if people really enjoy what they work for, they believe in the mission, they believe in what we're doing, they do a better job as well. And so that really is what drives me to push us to be better, but also to serve the people that trust us with their, the largest purchase in their lives, most likely.
You mentioned earlier AI, and I'm just interested in some of the tools that you're using kind of internally that you love or that you hate, or like what are other tools are you using?
Yeah, let's talk about AI for a little bit. So AI is an incredible thing. I actually have not had nothing but pleasant experiences with AI. I've seen challenges with AI. We're trying to leverage AI to, again, meet the customer where they're at. And frankly, sometimes they don't want to be met where they're at, And so there are times where we have leveraged AI from maybe a front end perspective or even a back end perspective, and you continually have to monitor and QC the work that it's doing, because there may be times where we leverage automation, just consumer interaction, and it's not a pleasant one because it hasn't been refined and it's not the experience that I would want as a consumer. And so we're constantly watching what we're doing. It largely is positive. What excites me is some of the things that we have relied on in the past for again just quality as itself, or scalability. The scale is what really excites me, is that we can actually serve more customers. I believe we could have probably serviced at 3 to 5x more at that time had we had the efficiencies. It was a really hard time to scale at that point, and we couldn't bring in people fast enough. And so leveraging scale and diversifying markets, which I believe we'll experience again in the next 1 to 2 years in a positive way, that we will have better tools that will allow us to scale up quicker. So we're working on things today that will better serve us 12 months from now.
What's the best piece of business advice that you would either give to yourself, just starting out, if you could talk to your younger self, or to somebody new?
You've got to get your hands in every pot, and you cannot have too big or too small of an ego. I deal with customers on a day-to-day basis, and they tend to be shocked that I'm working with them as if I'm anybody special. Yes, I'm the CEO of the company. We founded the company, but every customer is why we're in business, right? So I tell people a lot, whether it's somebody that's looking to start their own business, and I've had past colleagues that have started their own companies. And I the piece of advice that I continually tell people is just get your hands in every pot. Know how every iteration of the business is run, because if you can master that, then you should be able to manage it, right?
So let's move on a little bit to YouCanBookMe. So what led you to use YouCanBookMe? What was the impetus that made you realize you needed online scheduling?
So I've mentioned several times, meet the customers where they're at. And the thing that I like the most about leveraging the technology is that they can work on their schedule, not ours. And you'd be surprised that we'll get after hours, we'll get weekends, mornings, nights. And so if somebody wants to be called at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, I will find something, and we will make it happen. And that's rare in business in general, that it's typically 9 to 5. You schedule your appointment when we're available, and then we go from there. It's seamless. We can give them the blocks. They can pick however long they want to block us off for, and they can choose, and they submit all the information over to us, and now we're ready.
And that's an interesting point too, because you're doing it such a personal service for somebody. They can't necessarily do it when they're in their office. You need to do it at night, to me. Because I saw on your website that it was 7/365. I was like, wow.
We get very flexible. I've got a West Coast branch. I've got an East Coast branch. We're able to facilitate that at almost any time. And so we do try and make sure we don't get too many requests that are at midnight. But if it happens, then I'll make sure I've got coverage for it.
So I've seen you've got your book now button on the website, and people can book from there. How else do you share your link? Is that the only way people can access it?
So no, we actually have it in email signatures as well. And so I found that whether it doesn't always have to be a new customer, it can be a recurring customer as well. So if they want to go in there and book a time to speak to anybody, it's also an email signature. So we're trying to make it as wide of a net as possible, to where we, again, can communicate with people around their schedules, not ours.
Okay, really quickly, we've got a lightning round here of would you rather. So would you rather throw out your phone or your laptop, Van?
Phone.
Where's that?
I can do more with my laptop, and I can communicate with my laptop as well. So phone, well, I can take it with me. The laptop is a lot more functional.
Would you rather get a new customer or double your sales to an existing customer?
New customer.
Would you rather be known for product quality or customer service?
I would do customer service. I mean, the product quality, we're not making iPhones, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do think that obviously the product offerings that we give to people, I would want to be something where it serves them in the best possible way. But I think that that's a pretty basic function as far as what we do. And so for me, it's just taking care of people, just treating them well.
And in a way, customer service is your product. In a way,
Right. Yeah.
if it is apples and apples across the board, then how you do it differently is what you're
I'm gonna tagline that. That was nice. I like that.
saying. Excellent.